Uh, Good afternoon, dear learners. I hope I'm audible. Could you please acknowledge if my screen is shared and visible to you, and my voice is also audible? Okay. Mm. All right. So we can begin with the second session today on the for the course Fundamental of C. The topic today is types of programming, and we have already done one session in last week where we have understood the basics of C language, the compiler, and what is the structure of C language, what are the properties of C programming language, what are its different attributes. Okay, so this also we have learned, and we have also seen a sample C program at the end of the last session. And then in the lab session, we have exhaustively done three programs. So hopefully the students must have tried the sample program at their end. Okay, so to begin with the session, the topic for this session is the types of programming and the guidelines for this session. To make the session more interactive, it is necessary to maintain discipline for smooth conduction and uh, to maximize the outcome of this interactive live session. All the learners should type in their name with enrollment number and program name so as to mark their attendance. Also, it is necessary to understand that you can raise your doubts, questions, but at the end of the session. Try not to intervene in between. Maintain the discussion language. Okay. So these are the different guidelines which you should remember. The learning objective for this session is to understand the fundamental of programming language, the different programming techniques which are available. Then we will delve into the different programming paradigms like procedural programming, modular programming, object-oriented programming, functional programming. Okay. So these are the different topics that we will try to cover up in this session. Okay. So beginning with the fundamental of programming language. So I have already discussed that what is programming language. So programming language is a way for communicating the instructions or way for writing the instructions so as to instruct the computer or the CPU to process them. For that we use programming language. And in last session we have already discussed different types of programming languages. There are three levels of programming, that is low level, middle level, and high level. We have also understood that low level programming languages are called so because they are closer to computer and they are in machine language, that is the binary language, which is a zero or one representation. Okay, so the different aspects of a programming language entail variable declaration, basic syntax, data type and structures, flow control structures like conditional statements, loops, loop control statements, functional programming, object-oriented programming like inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, and abstraction. Then debugging, and we also have IDEs, that is integrated development environment, or we can say like programming environment, coding environment. Now coming to variable declaration, what are variables? We declare we have got memory And what do we use the computer memory for? Storing data. But is it possible to remember memory locations? Because memory locations are in hexadecimal number system. So is it easy to remember hexadecimal number system? What do you think? It is difficult to remember. So for that, we use a label for these memory locations, and that label is called a variable. Okay. For example, there is a memory location where you want to store a number 2. But do you or would you be able to remember this memory location in its hexadecimal number? No. So for that, you label this memory location as A. But when we write program, we have to declare the data type of the variable. Data type means what type of data you are going to store in this memory location. Okay, so if I am writing int A is equal to 2. So what do I mean with that? That I want to declare a variable of data type integer, because it means that you please book a memory location, and that memory location should be able to store an integer type value. So what are integers which don't have any fractional part? They are known as integers. And that value would be 2. So I am assigning 2 as a value to this variable. It means that the number 2 or this value 2 will be stored in the memory location designated by A. So A will be the label of that memory location where I am going to store that value. Okay, so this is called assignment. Assignment means to assign a value to a variable. And for assigning, we use an operator called assignment operator. So here the assignment operator is equal to. Okay, the assignment operator is equal to. And you all know about semicolon. So semicolon is the terminating symbol which should come at the end of every statement, right? So it me and For every programming language there is a syntax. Syntax means grammar, because it's a language after all, and language cannot be spoken or written without knowing grammar. For example, you know syntax of English, you know grammar of English, you know grammar of Hindi. So if you are knowing grammar of any language, you should be able to write that language properly without making any grammatical errors. So in the same way, the grammar is referred as syntax in case of programming language. And if you are aware about syntax of any programming language, you should be able to write it, or you should be able to write a program using that programming language. So we are all here to learn about the syntax of C language. Why? Because we want to write programs in C, or we want to learn the programming in C. So programming in C can just only be understood if you are able to understand its syntax. Okay, so coming to data type, so I have already introduced data type. In last lecture session also, I have like mentioned about different data types like integer, float, character. Okay, so they are known as data types. And for data types, for representing data types, we use keywords. So here int is a data type which is represented by a keyword called int, and it represents integer value. Okay. Then we have got flow control structures, functional programming that we are going to discuss in later lectures. Okay. Many students are writing to talk in Hindi, but as per the guidelines received by the VGU, I am not supposed to speak in Hindi. Okay. And I'm trying to maintain a simple level of English language so that most of the students are able to understand. I'm trying not to use any difficult words. So please try and understand and if possible, note whatever I am speaking so that you can refer it later. Making notes is the best way to learn. So try making note yourselves. Okay. Uh, Fine. So we come to what are the different types of programming languages. So programming languages depend upon what type of requirement we have. Means the what type of functionality do we want in our program. On that basis, uh, we have different type of programming paradigms, or we can say what type of usage these programming languages will be of, or what type of applications these programming language will be of. Depending on that, we have got different type of programming paradigms. For example, we have got different type of vehicles, right? These all vehicles will make us reach our destination, but depending upon the choice, like on the basis of how many people want to travel. For example, two people want to travel. So would you get a bus for it, or would you go by aeroplane, or you will go by scooter? Okay, depends upon different factors. For example, distance, okay, cost, right, speed, right, how much time or distance, speed and time, okay, how much time you want to reach. So on these parameters, we will decide our mode of transport. For example, if you opt for scooter, the maximum speed limit which the scooter can reach will be, let's say, 100 or 80, right? It will take too much time, but the cost will be very less in comparison to a car which can go at a greater speed and it can cover reasonable distance, okay, in less amount of time than scooter. But if we go by aeroplane, it is normally not recommended for going at shorter distances. It is normally people use aeroplane for going at longer distances, okay, and in less amount of time. So depending upon the requirement, you will select your vehicle. In the same way, you can select between all these types of programming language depending upon the programming preference, the preference of an individual, that what type of use or what type of application does that individual want to develop. Okay, on that basis, we can select these different type of programming paradigms, programming types, like procedural programming, functional programming, object-oriented programming, scripting, and logical programming. So these are the major 5 types of programming paradigms or programming types or programming approaches. All right. So we are going to discuss each of these programming paradigms one by one. Okay. So first we are going to discuss about procedural programming. So what is procedural programming? Procedure means step. Okay. Let's say, for example, someone says the word medical procedure. So what do you mean by medical procedure? What are the steps which a doctor will do? That is called medical procedure. In the same way, if I mention the commands or statements in a series of steps to achieve a required output, that programming will be known as procedural programming. Means to accomplish any task, you have to have a set of steps or a series or a sequence of steps. So if you are going to implement that procedure or that sequence of steps in a program, the program will be termed as a procedural program, and the language which can develop such programs will be termed as a procedural programming language. So procedural programming language is a language which allows you to create a program using a sequence of steps called procedure. Okay. And why do we create programs? To achieve a desired output. Okay. So if you have written a set of steps somewhere, that is, let's say you drink tea 5 times in a day. You drink tea 5 times in a day or 3 times in a day. So you tell me whether you would search for the tea recipe 3 times on internet. Let's say you don't know how to make tea. Let's say you don't know how to make tea and you have to drink tea 3 times in a day. What will you do? How many times you will search for the tea steps, how to make tea? Once. You will go to internet, search how to make tea, and write those steps somewhere on a page. Now, what you will do is you will run those steps every time you will make tea. Okay, so it means that every time you want to achieve the same functionality, instead of rewriting those steps, you will call that procedure. You will call that procedure, and that procedure is maintainable. It's a small set of steps. So let's say someone wants to make like ginger tea, or someone wants to make the using elaichi tea. Okay, so if you want to make such type of teas, you will make minor alterations in your steps. Okay, so it means that the coding style is maintainable, it is small, and it is flexible. It can accommodate to any requirement. But that doesn't mean I have to change the entire 200 line program or 500 line program because of this reason. Right. So this is called procedure. Whatever procedure you will follow, you have to repeat this procedure, call that procedure as many times as you want. Okay. So if your one friend comes, he asks for tea. What you will do? You will run that procedure. Then another friend comes after half an hour or 2 hours. He asks for tea. Again, you will repeat that same set of steps. So that doesn't mean you will write how to make tea 10 times. No, you will just write it once, and then you will execute it several times. You will call that procedure several times. So this promotes code reusability, means you can reuse the same steps again and again. So such procedures are called, or the language which supports such sort of programming is called procedural programming. So C also is an example of a procedural programming language. In same way like Pascal and other basic language, Java language, these are all procedural languages. Okay, so I think that most of the learners were able to understand what is procedural program. Right. It can be confused or it can be mixed up with functional programming, but we will come to what are functions. When we say or when we speak the word function, what comes into your mind? In your mathematics class, you must have learnt about mathematical functions. So how do you write function? You write function like f of x, and it generates y. So most of the students, those who have learnt maths in their schooling, should know about this expression. This expression says that um, how do you like represent a function mathematically? So this is what you represent function in maths. So what is this x value? What is this x? X is called argument, and y is your output variable. So we can call x as argument, or we can call it as input. And what is f? F is function. But how do you write? How does this function do? So let's say my function adds 3 to whatever input I give. So how will I write it? How will I write it? Fx is such that x plus 3. You write like this, or you put colon like this. Hope you remember your maths class. This is how you write how a function operates, the body of the function, right? So you write fx is such that it adds 3 to x. Clear? So if you pass any value, my function will add 3 to it. So what is this? This is a task, or this is an operation, or this is a function which this function does. Okay. And after doing it, it returns a result. So let's say if I pass 6 in it, and you know what this function is. Now I pass 6 in it. So what will be the output of this function? 9, because it will add 3 to whatever value I pass, and it would return 9. So 9 becomes output, 6 becomes input. And what is the implementation of the function? What is the body of the function? It does x plus 3. So what type of value it returns? If you look at the type of input argument, it is integer. What type of output it is returning? It is also integer. Okay. So let's say if I name my function, if I write my function like int f, this is the name of the function, and I pass a value as int x. So now what does it do now? What does it do now? We have got a variable y, and y is equal to x plus 3, and it returns y. Okay. So at the end we will write it will return y. So this is how programming is done. It is purely mathematical. We will return y and put our curly brace here. So curly brace will mark the body of the function. That in how many what is the scope of the function, or what is the function block? So whatever statement you are going to write inside the function will be enclosed inside the curly braces. Okay. So here what we are doing here, inside the body of the function, what we are doing, if you look at this function, what is the value returned by the function? The value returned by the function is integer. What type of value the function is accepting? It is accepting again an integer value. What it is doing with that integer value? Inside this function we are declaring like another variable y, and y is becomes equal to x plus 3, and then we return y. So how many times I can call this function? I can call this function like n number of times. I will write f10. So output of f10 will be 13. I will write f11. Output of f11 will be 14. I want to find f12. So it will be 15. So I can call it any number of times. So this also promotes code reusability. This also promotes code reusability. So what is function? Function look at the problem in a mathematical manner. Okay. So I believe it is clear to all the learners that what is functional programming and how does it work. But on the other hand, it is also necessary for you to correlate how mathematics comes with programming. Okay. Or how mathematics is implemented in form of a programming language. So by this example, I have demonstrated that how a mathematical function can be represented programmatically. Okay. So I believe it's clear to you. So there are different examples of such functional programming language like Scala, Erlang, Haskell, F Sharp, and Elixir. So these are the different type of functional programming languages. Then we have got another category of programming language that is called object-oriented programming. So before we understand what is object-oriented programming, it is necessary to understand what is an object. So object is any data field or any real world entity around us. So whatever we can see around us can be treated as an object. But what is that object? An object can have unique features. It can have unique attributes, and it has got some behavior. Okay. So that is what you call as an object. So if I look around, I can find a pen. Okay. So there are two aspects of looking at pen. How does pen look like? And what does pen do? Okay. So there are some features of the pen and there are some functions of the pen. Okay. So there can be different features. What are the features of the pen? Pen is let's say a 4 to 5 or we can say 10 centimeter or 11 centimeter maybe long object, and it contains ink. Okay. Mostly pens are cylindrical in nature. Okay, they are made up of plastic or steel. Okay, it is possible most of the pens are plastic. Okay, so they have a plastic body. Might have got a refill. Okay, and they can write in a particular color, let's say in blue color or in red color. Okay, pen can be ball pen, they can be gel pens, they can be ink pens. Okay, there can be different type of pen. So these are the features of my pen. But, or it can be an electronic pen. For example, if I'm holding a stylus like this, so stylus is also a pen, but it works differently. It is electronic pen. In the same way, what are the functions a pen can perform? A pen can write. Okay, clear? Or we can draw by using pen, or we can tap the table by a pen. Okay, or we can show some object, or we can indicate something with a pen. For example, this thing, that thing, using pen. We can point out things using pen. So these can be different functions of the pen. So we can say that pen is an object. Okay, so whatever attributes, whatever things you see around you, you identify them as object, and you can have features. So features are normally represented as variables. Okay, and functions are depending upon what behavior they can perform or what functionality they can perform. So if you apply this logic in programming, that programming becomes object oriented programming. Okay, and it has got different other features like abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. But if you use object oriented programming approach, it maintains data security. Okay, some features can be inherited by their child objects. Some features are private to themselves. Okay, so depending upon, and it also promotes code reusability. Okay, and it supports modular programming. So when we talk about the features of object-oriented programming, there are four features. We normally remember them by using an acronym called API. Okay, so API stands for abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. So these are known as API principles. That is abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation. So first we come to abstraction. Okay, so abstraction means what you can see or what you can use. Okay, so there some objects will reveal their mechanisms which are relevant for the use of other objects. Okay, for example, if you look at pen, can you see refill directly? In some pens, they can show you the refill, but most of the pens they conceal that refill, and you cannot, they will only reveal it if you want. Okay, so implementation of abstraction is your encapsulation. So only selected information will be exposed. Other information will be kept private. So unless you have the access to turn the pen and show the refill, let's say you take my pen and you ask me to, sir, please show its refill. Okay. So if I don't allow you, then you don't have the authority. You will not have the access to see that refill of the pen. It is still encapsulated. But if you are my friend or if you are my family member, perhaps, then I will allow you to see that what is inside that pen. Okay, what type of refill it has got, what type of ink it has got. So only selective information will be exposed. The remaining information will be kept private. Okay, the remaining information will be kept private. For example, you have taken medicines, right? So inside that medicine or capsules you have taken, right? So the medicine is there inside the capsule. Okay, can you see the medicine directly? If you look at capsule that you take when you are ill or uh, for some other reason, if you take a capsule, can you see the medicine inside that capsule directly? So you don't want to see it, because you will take it and then your body will open it. So your body will have the access. You externally don't have the access. Okay. So if you open the medicine, it will break and the medicine will fall on the floor. So it will spoil it. But if you ingest it, if you take the medicine, then your body will just absorb that medicine. Okay. So it is meant for some user, right? So this is called encapsulation. Inheritance means inheritance if there is a parent class and there is a child class. Some properties will be inherited from the parent by the child. So normally the arrow points backwards. The arrow goes from child to parent. So the properties which are inherited are written. For example, if I have got a, let's say, scooter. Okay. So scooter is the parent, and there is electric scooter. We have got electric scooter. So we can say that electric scooter is a child of parent scooter. Okay. Why? Because it has inherited some features from the scooter. How? It is having a handle or steering handle. It is having acceleration. It is having brakes. Yeah, it is having wheels. But the conventional scooter has got petrol as a fuel. But on the other hand, electric scooter works on battery. So that feature is acquired. That feature is private. So what type of fuel the parents class is using, that is private. So electric scooter has modified that and created its own fuel value. So the fuel value in case of electric scooter will become battery. And on the other hand, the parent class has got its own fuel value, which is petrol. So that variable is not inherited by the child class. The remaining other features have been inherited by the child class. Okay. So we can use it to modify the implementation of program. That is called inheritance. Okay. Polymorphism means one function or one object can represent, can have many behaviors. Can have many behaviors. Okay, so there are different objects which can take one or more forms. They can exhibit different properties. Okay. So for example, you have used minus sign, you have used a dash sign. So where you have used dash, for subtraction you have used dash. Okay. Where else you have used this dash sign? You have used in English statements. Sometimes you write that is, or here it is, put a dash here. I don't know dash language. So you will write here French. So it can be used to create a blank if you elongate it a bit. So it means the same symbol can be used in different ways. So that is an example of polymorphism. Okay. I hope you are able to understand this. Okay. So proceeding forward, we have got another type of programming paradigm called scripting. So what is scripting? Scripting doesn't use compiler. Compiler and interpreter, there are two types of translator. In last lecture also we have discussed that there are two levels of translation, compilation and interpretation. So interpretation basically compiles or translates line by line. Okay, so we use interpreter in scripting languages. So basically they are used for a higher level of language, and we normally write scripts in form of tags. Okay, we use tags. For example, HTML, PHP, Ruby. These are all Python. These are all examples of scripting languages. They have got tags and they have got elements and they have got properties. Like that, we create script. XML is also a scripting language. So these scripting languages are interpreted and they allow it only one command to be executed at one time. Okay, normally they are used for mapping or automating, right? Or managing web content. So these are all types of scripting languages. They are higher, uh, they are of generation 4 generation languages mostly. So they are called 4GL or 4th generation of language. Okay, many of the students would have been learning Python, right? So the next type of programming is called logic programming. So logic programming is used to have intelligent applications, or used to create the like intelligent applications based on AI. Okay, and they basically create different type of logics called predicate logic, propositional logic. Two types of logics are there. In AI, we teach these topics. So we express the sentence in a form of logical form. Okay. So we write, for example, X is parent of Y. For example, we have got this statement. So how do we write it in case of predicate logic? Or propositional logic, we will write it like in a form of a function. So parent X comma Y. So we write it like this, right? So whatever are the nouns, they are passed as arguments. Whatever is the relation between two variables, we normally express it as a function. Okay, so this is we write it like this form. Okay, so this is called predicate. So this is called predicate. Okay, and then we use some logical connectors like and, or, not. We we'll write like this. For example, if I want to write X is not the parent of Y, so I will write parent X comma Y and put a not sign in front of it. So how will I read it? X is not a parent of Y. So this is the not sign we can put. Or we can use other symbols like X is parent of Y and X is father of Y. We write such relations with the help of logical operators. And some languages like Prolog, Apsys, Datalog, Lisp, Lisp programming. These are all examples of logical programming language. Okay, right? So we use basically traditional AI, conventional AI, for logical programming, right? Uh, Now we talk about the C compiler. Okay, so what is a compiler? I have already discussed several times with you. What is a compiler? So compiler basically translates a source file written in high level language into a machine readable instruction, or into a machine language. So the machine language is binary language. So the compiler converts the entire code written in high level language into a machine level language, right? So such a translator is called compiler. So compiler takes the entire file as input. Compiler takes the entire file as input and converts it into an object code. So if you look at the block diagram of compiler, compiler takes a source program written in high level language and it converts it into a low level machine code, or we call it as object code. So when you compile a C program, when, for example, you have written a C program, the object code will have the extension as .obj. So .obj will be the extension of the file, which will be the output of a compiler. So compiler will create this object code after the translation of your .c file or your C program, which is your in high level language. Okay. So for C compilers, they are openly available. The C language was created by Dennis Ritchie in Bell Labs, that I have like already told you in last lecture. So the C compiler is freely available, which is called GNU. So GNU is for general usage, or it is freely available. So it is called, it is uh, like, so it is being offered as GPL, means a general public license. General public license means it is free for everyone. Okay, so such compilers which are available for C in a GNU license are known as GCC compilers. So GCC compiler means GNU C compiler. And your Unix operating system is written in C language. Okay, I have already told you in last lecture that Unix operating system and various other languages are being implemented, or operating systems are being written in C language. So C is a very powerful language, and the GCC compiler is available freely. Okay, or there are other compilers from HP or Solaris that also they are available. And for Windows, we have got a compiler called a Ming GW compiler. So it stands for Minimalistic GNU C compiler for Windows. Minimalistic GNU C compiler for Windows. So we have got a Ming W compiler, which is available. Okay, some also have a Turbo C compiler. So these are different distributables of C. These are called distributions of C. Means C is available in different forms. Okay. So I hope this you can understand about C language, right? So till now, I believe that most of the students are able to understand. Uh, Coming to the next topic, the installation of C compiler. So how do you install C compiler? For if you want to install it on Windows, as I told you, you have to go for MingW compiler, and there is a website for mingw.org. There you can download different versions of MingW, and if you are installing MingW, it is necessary to install this GCC core library and then runtime environment. So what is runtime? Runtime will allow your program to get executed. So how does a program execute? What is required for execution of any program? What do you think? How will a program execute? So program executes if you have got some resources available. So your operating system provides the resources like CPU and memory to your program. So CPU and memory, if they are not provided to any program, the program will not be able to run. Okay. So when your program will be compiled by the compiler, there has to be a path for that. So path will tell that where your files or where your output file will be stored. So that is called path variable. So inside your environment variable, there are different system variables, and one of those system variables is path. So path has to be set to the C installation directory where your C is stored. For example, you install C, and C gets installed in C drive program files. Let's say you install Turbo C, so it will be present in C drive program files Turbo C or Turbo C++. So this will be the path, and in that also there will be a folder called bin. So bin folder will store all your compiled code, means binary file. Okay, bin means binary. But what is binary? Binary is the output file which will be created after the compilation is successful. When your compilation will be successful, the file that will be created will be an object file. Object file is binary file. So that binary file will be stored in this folder, in this directory called bin, which will be present in the path of installation, where your Turbo C will be installed in your system, right? So these are the installation instructions. So in last lecture, we have also discussed the first C program. So we will revise it also, and we are going to look at different aspects of this program. Okay, most of the learners would be able to recall that what did this program mean, right? So here we write the first C program. In that we have got a comment. So this is called comment. Okay. So comments are not compiled. Comments are just for our understanding. So comments serve two purposes. First is understandability and another is readability. So if you are reading this program, you have not developed this program, but you are reading this program. In this comment, you can see that I have written first C program that says hello. So you can write more than one lines in it. So for writing multiple lines in a comment, you use asterisk slash asterisk. You start your comment, write some lines, and then close these lines with asterisk slash. The symbol, star symbol, is called asterisk. Okay, and this is called forward slash. Okay, so here we use this asterisk slash combination for multiple line comment. But if you want to write single line comment, only one line comment, then you use double slash. So using double slash, you can write single line comment. Like for example, in the subsequent lines, we have written two lines. Okay. So for that, we use this. This is called a single line comment. Single line comment. Okay. Clear? This is called multi-line comment. Multi-line comment. Okay. So now coming to the coding part. Here we have used a symbol which is called a preprocessor symbol or a preprocessor directive. So this symbol is called a preprocessor directive. It allows you to link different files to your code. But why do you need different files? Why do you need those files? Because your program will use some functions which are not developed by you. For example, functions for input output. Input output means for taking input from the user and displaying output on the screen. So for this, we use a library file or a header file, which is called stdio.h. Some students remember it like studio.h, but the spelling is not studio. It is stdio. It stands for standard input output header file. Standard input output header file. Okay. So how do you come to know it is header file? Because this extension is .h. So extension .h means it is a header file. It is a library. But why do we need this library file? Because in this file, there are some functions for performing input output. For example, we are using a function called printf. Okay. So printf is a function which we are going to use from this header file. Then we are going to use a keyword called include. Okay. So include will allow us to add this header file pre-compiled code to our program. Right. And then we create a function called main function. So most of the C programs have this function. Almost all the C programs have this main function. So the compilation begins from main function. Okay. The execution begins from main function. So whatever you write in the main function will be compiled first, will be executed first. Okay. So here, if you say that, if you say printf hello world, I don't have anything else to do before this main function. So I have written directly main function. But if you look at the structure of a C program, you can have global variables written here. You can have variables written above the main function. It is possible. Okay. Inside the main function, we are using a output command called printf, which stands for formatted output. Okay. F here means formatted. So what is formatted about it? Right now we don't see formatting, but when you will use data type or uh, some modifiers, there you will use this formatting. I'm going to display a string message. What is string? String is a sequence of characters. And if I want to write a string, I enclose it in double quotes. So I want to print hello world, exclamatory sign, and then leave a new line here. So for a new line, we use this /n. So it is called new line character. It is also known as escape sequence. Okay. The some special symbols which start with slash, they are known as escape sequence. That we will come to it later, but right now you have to remember it /n as new line character. So it leaves a new line as soon as you print it on the screen. So the only way to print it on the screen is to include it in our printf statement, right? And then since my function is returning an integer value, I will use another keyword called return to return an integer value. So integer value is here 0 that I want to return. Okay. So here we have used different keywords. There are total 32 keywords in C language. Okay. So how many keywords we have used here? First is include, int, return. So these are the three keywords which we have used. Which function we have used here? There are two functions here. First is main function and second is printf function. This is main function is also a function. Printf is an output function. Okay. Who has written main function? User. Us. We have written main function. Okay. Where this printf has already been defined inside stdio.h. Okay. So it takes some argument, and this argument is of string. So how do you come to know it is a string? Because it is enclosed in double quote marks. Okay. So in last lab session, I have executed this program. So we have written here. I want to discuss more about these parts of the program. I have told you that /n is new line character. Printf is a formatted function to display an output. Return 0. So return 0 returns a value to the operating system. So normally when we return 0, it means normal termination. And a non-zero value, which is normally 1, it signals abnormal termination. Okay. So if you use a non-zero value, it can be -1, it can be 1. So any other value apart from 0, if you write, it returns abnormal termination, means you are terminating, but there is an error in it. Okay. So this line is optional. Okay. This line is optional. We are writing here int main. Your main can also not return any value. So if you write here void main, then I don't need to return anything. In that case, I will not use this statement because I don't want to return anything. And if I don't want to return anything, I will not write this statement. So this return 0 will only be written if I actually want to return some value. But if I am not required to return any value, I will mention the return type of my function as void. Void means nothing. Okay. I don't want to return anything. So in that case, I don't need to write this return 0. I should not write return 0. The maximum I can write here is return and end it with a semicolon. Okay. So in that case, in that scenario, return zero becomes optional, right? Are you able to understand? So here we are also using another keyword called void, right? So these are the different terminologies which we have already understood. Let's revise them. First was a statement. So what is statement here? Any programming statement which performs a programming action, it is terminated by semicolon. So for example, when you write in Hindi, you use a symbol called viram. Okay. In the same way, if you write an English sentence, you put a full stop at the end. But in C language, we use semicolon. So this symbol is called semicolon, and it is normally used to terminate all statements. What about this hash sign? Hash sign is called preprocessor directive. So preprocessor directive is the statement is not terminated by a semicolon. Okay. Please make a note of this rule that whatever you write after hash sign or this preprocessor directive, we are not supposed to terminate it by a semicolon. A block. What is block? Block is delimited or enclosed by curly braces. For example, in main function, you must have noticed that we have created a main functions block. So whatever functionality our main function was supposed to execute, it was all enclosed in curly braces. Okay. Then we have got comments. I've already mentioned about comments. So comments can be of two types: single line comment and multi-line comment. So this is multi-line comment, as it begins with slash asterisk and ends with asterisk slash, and single line double slash. Okay, comments we don't execute. White spaces. What are white spaces? White space means we leave a space between two keywords. We leave a space between two variables. We leave a space. Okay, we leave different type of spaces. For example, blank is a type of space. Tab is a type of white space. New line character is also a type of white space. So we can use extra white space, but there are mandatory white spaces also. For example, if you are include stdio.h, it is not necessary to put a space here. Okay, but if we are writing int a, there is a mandatory space here. So space is necessary. It is one white space should needed to separate tokens. Okay, tokens means variables, keywords, constants, they are tokens. Okay, but we can put extra white spaces. We can have two white spaces between int and a. That is permissible. Then there is a case sensitive nature. Case sensitive means capital letters and small letters are not same. If you write here instead of int, compiler will not understand this. Compiler will understand this. Okay, so please make sure you are using the right case wherever it is required. Okay, brings us to an end of our session today. We are going to revise it. We are going to recap it with some review questions. Okay, so you please feel free to ask whatever doubts you have for this session in the chat. You may ask whatever doubts you are having. Prosenjit, okay, you have to write it in the chat. I'll not be able to open your microphone for speaking. But learners can mention their queries in the chat. Your concern is the about the attendance, not about the session. I'll not be able to address it. For that, you have to write an email to the uh, support team. C programming like Python. Yes, yes. C programming can be installed. Yes. C for that you need a Turbo C compiler, or you can use code blocks. In last lab session, if you have attended, I have told you what is code blocks and where you can install it from. Okay, I'll ask some review questions. What is scripting, or how many programming paradigms? how many programming paradigms are you able to understand? What different type of programming paradigms we have discussed so far? If you can reply. We have understood four programming approaches, right? Procedural programming, functional programming, object-oriented programming, logic programming. Yes, correct. Okay. So many students are answering. Very nice. Good participation. So what is compiler? So what is compiler? Yes, it's a translator. Very good. What type of code it creates when it compiles? Machine level code. Yes, binary code. Very good. Very nice. We call this code as an object code. We call this code as object code. So output of a the screen closed. The screen closed abruptly. Thank you, everyone. The session was about to end anyways. Thank you very much.